Hi guys, it's Heather Darnall and welcome back to my art channel. And a big thank you to my new subscribers. My goodness, it always makes me feel so heart-filled when I see the numbers on the rise like that. So it makes me feel like I'm doing something right. But anyways, if you remember the last video I uploaded, you'll remember that I was just kind of really spazzing out, and sad too, because I was getting ready to move. And just knowing I wasn't gonna be able to paint for a little bit was kind of a bummer. But here I am, temporarily in another location right now. And yes, temporary. We'll be here for a couple of months, but that's okay because I still get to paint here. And you'll see behind me, I have a very tiny little space, but I am super grateful still because again, I still get to paint with you. But I don't get to paint, with my usual stuff and have all my supplies all over, kind of surrounding me. This time I had to just take bare minimal stuff or things that are really light or small or something, just so that when we move from here again to our final location or our duty station in California, we will be for several years, then I can, take all that stuff out. But for right now, I'm just gonna keep it simple. And I thought, watercolor pencils. I haven't used those before. I've used colored pencils before 100 years ago, but hey, pencils or colored pencils are not big and bulky or heavy. They're pretty light and very easy to travel with. So considering I'm technically traveling, again, I thought this would be a great art medium. So if we're hoping that I would have another acrylic video, trust me, those are the majority of my paintings. I love those, but I do like to kind of experiment and kind of dilly-dally around with all kinds of things. Again, this would be one of those videos where I just wanted to try with something that I usually don't work with. So hopefully you enjoy it. But today's painting, I was inspired by some hummingbirds that frequent my in-laws' hummingbird feeder outside. So where I was in Texas, I was expecting to see a whole lot more. I maybe saw one in my yard, I don't know, less than a handful of times. That was kind of sad. But seeing these hummingbirds frequent this feeder, they are so adorable and just refreshing to see, because if you think about it, we tend to forget they are equally as important to butterflies and honeybees because they too pollinate our food. And each of the honeybee, butterfly, and hummingbirds have their unique beauty. But today I wanted to focus on the hummingbird. And if you remember, you might have seen I uploaded a video where I showed you guys how to do a peacock. And I said, I'm not a bird watcher. And really, I'm not. And I don't paint birds a lot, but I have before, obviously. I painted a barn owl and a peacock. But birds, I think, have to be very special and specific in my, eyes to want to paint it. So I guess I was also saying that too, is don't expect many birds for me to do as tutorials, because I really just, again, like to do tons of different things. But anyway, so before we get started, today's ministry snack comes from the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. And it reads, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." Woo! I think every verse that I share with you guys is always heavy, but this one for me at this time is very heavy, and it's really hard to let it sit with me because we tend to walk by sight, not by faith. And a lot of us depend on God by sight. Well, we want to see him. Well, where's God when you need him? Well, where's this? Why can't he show himself? If you recall, after the fall, when Adam and Eve sinned, that was one of their gifts they no longer got to have. They no longer got to walk in the presence of God. They had to trust everything. They had to trust in him to provide everything, to guide them in all that they do and give them direction. That's really hard to count on those specifics when you can't see, because we're humans and we have eyeballs and we see with them. And so without our eyeballs, we can't process things in our brain to kind of give us an idea or a sense of what's going on around us. And right now, a lot of you guys are probably experiencing the housing market crisis, and we're really, really feeling that. It is so hard to just assume that we won't have a roof over our head when we get to California, or we're not going to have the things that we had in Texas, or this and the other thing, and it's very stressful. But that's not the God I serve. I don't serve a God who doesn't provide a roof for his children, or the things that he knows that we need, like a good church or friends around us that are of the influence that are appropriate for us. So if I'm not going to trust in the God that I serve that says he is who he is, then I'm not really good and faithful to him, aren't I? So again, I have to look back when we read the Bible, how he has been providing for his children, not really being in physical presence over and over and over and time again. So it's very, very, very important you don't rely on your eyesight, because the enemy does. He wants you to rely on your eyesight so that all the horrible things you see out there are going to convince you that that's all you're ever going to experience or won't experience as far as having something good in your life. So I know it's really hard. I have to tell myself this all the time. I serve a good God. You have a good God. He will not give up on you. And again, it's something I need to really let sit with me and not get overly anxious, because he also says to not worry. We should only be worrying about the very day that we're living in. So again, if you have another situation that's not necessarily related to the housing market crisis, just think of that. Walk by faith. Really think about the God that you serve and how much he loves you. And if you can't really put that in perspective, think if you have kids. Would you want your kids to trust you no matter what, to provide for them? Even if they didn't understand the situation around them that was going on, because they're probably just too young to understand. You know what I mean? But inside you're hoping, I just hope my kids know that I love them and I'll do anything and everything for them. They may not see it now, but my actions will speak louder than words. Again, God's actions speaks louder than the necessity of him showing his face, which is again, him wanting us to rely on our faith. All right, guys, let's get started.
I'm beginning my project lightly sketching in a flower that reminds me of Esperanza flowers. They're really big and beautiful and very much like a trumpet, but you can draw and paint whatever kind of flower you like. I started with the flower because once I draw the center of it, I'll know the placement of the little hummingbird's beak. So for the hummingbird, I draw 2 small circles, one for the head and one for the body, and then simply contour the outer lines to make its body, but also keeping it sort of pointing at the bottom. Take note the back wing is about half the length of the forewing and are at about a 30 and 45 degree angle, while the bottom feathers are pretty slim in the front and have a few showing in the back. I realize this may be difficult to see, but this is my light sketch because I don't want harsh pencil lines showing through my watercolor. Plus I have a fixed camera angle, otherwise I'd come in closer as I'm drawing. After I finish drawing in the hummingbird, I go in for some more flowers and leaves. I just don't want it too bare or boring. Okay, so now onto the coloring, which I'll start with the flowers. I think the last time I wanted to use colored pencils to color something, if not using my 5-year-old son's coloring with him, was back in grade school, and I'm not going to tell you when that was. Anyway. So talk about memory lane for me here, but they're still neat, and hello, they're easy. So easy a 5-year-old can use them. And that's the beauty of using different art mediums. Every kind makes a unique composition. Anyway, I started with the lightest shade, which is the lemon yellow for the base coat. Now for me, I think it's hard to put light colors over darker colors, so it's just easier to color the whole thing one color and then gradually add the darker colors to achieve different gradient levels and shadowing. The next colors I use in order are sunflower yellow, pumpkin orange, blood orange, and rose red. For the leaves, I mostly use lime green and matcha green, followed by emerald green for shadowing and just having a variety of green shades. I'll be honest, I think I should have used more emerald green, but I don't know, maybe it'll be fine. We'll see. I just don't want it to be too bright of a green. Alrighty, now for that cute hummingbird. Starting with its beak, I use black, and for its head, I use more lime green, which is the most abundant color, but you'll see I color the top of its head, the wing arms, and a good chunk of its body. Next, I add some emerald green in the neck area, followed by peacock blue, carmine red, and a little more lemon yellow also in the head and neck area. Take note, I also use quartz white, although I'm not sure if this is going to do me much good or not. I mean, the paper is white here. This always puzzles me too because I never know if I want to use black on black either. Anyway, but I use it to cover its tummy. Here I'm adding some more emerald green and some garnet red for the main body colors, although they're just hints, but the garnet red, which kind of sort of looks brown, I also use at the very bottom. For the lower feathers, I use blueberry blue as the main colors and then outline them in with black on the left side for shadowing. Now I'm using black again for the eye, of course, and I'm just gonna add some little lines throughout the bird, sort of like showing some kind of faint layering or feathers or something. I mean, I don't know. Just some kind of crease marks and or some hints of other colors for shadowing. So for the feathers, I use cloudy gray, but I don't fill them in all the way. I leave some white. You think I'd use the quartz white? Maybe I just figured, oh well. Anyway, I go back to black also and do some outlining and then some shadowing within the feathers. As you can see, I also go back to the peacock blue and add some more coloring along the wings and in the feathers to give them just an overall good variety of color. Okay, for the moment of truth, well, but first I tried looking to see if these water-filled brush pens have some kind of size, number, or width like a normal paintbrush would, but they don't. Well, these came in a package and I got these from Hobby Lobby some time ago, so who knows, maybe the packaging said each type or size. So all I can say is they both have a fine tip. One is pretty small and the other one is slightly bigger, but I use the bigger one for the flowers and leaves. And so far, I must say, I love how easy it is to get that watercolor look, you know? You don't have to push down hard or anything. It kind of glides over the color, but I find that you do have to go over the area some or work that area a little bit before you move on so that all the colors blend nicely. Something else to think about is being mindful how much water you're releasing or squeezing out as you're painting, because it can really dilute the color, which is what I think is happening to the leaves here, making more of that bright green I was hoping to not get too much of. Unless you like that super translucent look, then, you know, you're good. It won't matter. Furthermore, you may have noticed how substantially brighter the colors got when I started using the water pens. I mean, I thought the pencils themselves were already pretty bright, but now the colors just pop, which is awesome because I wasn't pushing down hard on my pencils either to make them come off darker. So if you're a pencil pusher, yours may be even brighter, and because of that, you might find yourself sharpening your pencils more often, which of course, you know, shortens the overall length, but oh well, pros and cons to everything. I like to gently or softly color when using pencils for the sake of softer colors and being stingy so I don't have to sharpen them. I will say I love how all of these colors are coming together. They're just so vibrant, very pretty. As far as the flowers go, I think I could have afforded to use more oranges and reds to get some more shadowing because I think I squeezed out too much water or I didn't use the right tip for blending, or both. I mean, who knows? Anyways, it's a learning process, just like anything else. And I will tell you, these pens are super convenient and easy to use, and I love the tips and how they just, paint in general. But I would think you would definitely need to be more familiar with these if you're not using traditional paintbrushes. Wow, I think it turned out super cute. The flowers and leaves are nice, but I really like how the hummingbird turned out because that's the focal point. And I realized that I'd either needed to use smaller paper or made everything bigger to fill up my 9x12 that I had. But that's okay because that was an easy fix. I just used a paper cutter and sized it down to an 8x10. But I am sort of kicking myself that I didn't think about this earlier because I don't like being wasteful and these sheets are not cheap. Speaking of cheap, I think I have an idea for my next tutorial, which will be an addition to my mini 101 series and make it a watercolor paper 101 in comparison, because this paper by Arches, for me, is no doubt by far the best. And wrinkly water paper, it's a pet peeve of mine, and this didn't wrinkle, nor could you even tell it was used if I flip it over. And I didn't even use tape. So anyways, well, that concludes this lesson. And if you liked the tutorial, please be sure to not only share it, but to also hit like and subscribe for more videos. And don't forget about that notification button either, so you will be notified when I have a new one uploaded. But more importantly, remember to thank God for this opportunity and always paint from the soul.